All right, let's talk about something that's, frankly, one of the most misunderstood parts of any major infrastructure project: car and ER insurance. We're going to break down what these policies are supposed to do, how they often fall apart, and most importantly, why the quality of who's backing your policy can literally make or break your entire project. So, how many of you have heard this before? It's that email, right? Sir, insurance is done. Cheapest quote attached. It gets treated like just another box to check, another item on a long list. But this focus on just finding the cheapest quote, well, that's where a huge and often invisible risk starts to build. And that right there leads to the big, scary question we have to ask. What did you actually buy? Was it real, solid protection, or was it just the illusion of it? Because let me tell you, the policy you think you have and the one that actually shows up when disaster strikes can be two completely different things. Our goal here is to close that gap. So let's start by pulling back the curtain on this dangerous illusion. We'll look at what these policies are designed to do in a perfect world, and then we'll see exactly how they get watered down in reality. Okay, let's keep this super simple. No jargon, I promise. Think of it like this. CAR, or Contractors All Risk, is for all your civil works. We're talking roads, bridges, dams, the concrete and steel stuff. And ER, Erection All Risk, is for the plant and machinery that goes into those structures, like turbines and a power plant. That's the basic split. At its very core, a good, strong KR or ER policy is a financial reset button. That's the best way to think about it. When something goes catastrophically wrong, and on large projects, things can, this is the one thing that can put money back onto the balance sheet and let you keep going. So what does hitting this reset button actually do for you? Well, it covers a few absolutely critical things. First, any sudden physical damage, like a bridge girder collapsing. Second, it covers you if your project accidentally damages someone else's property or causes injury. And third, and this is huge for revenue-generating assets, it can cover the massive financial losses from delays in starting up. It's meant to be a complete safety net. And that brings us to this incredibly powerful idea. It really boils down to two options. A well-built policy is like getting an injection of emergency equity right when you need it most. A weak one, well, it's nothing more than an expensive, completely worthless PDF when you actually try to make a claim. Okay, so if that's what a good policy looks like, how does it all go so wrong? How does that solid protection that you paid for just evaporate? It happens quietly, through a bunch of small cuts and tweaks, all done to save a little bit on the premium. Well, here are the usual suspects. First, they hike up the deductibles. That means any medium-sized loss now comes directly out of your profits. Then they quietly remove or severely limit cover for major real-world risks like floods or earthquakes. And my favorite, they give you defect cover but use weak wording that pays for the minor damage around a faulty part, but not for the expensive faulty part itself. And believe me, it doesn't stop there. The policy might be set to expire right before the most high-risk phase, the commissioning and testing. That crucial delay cover we talked about, stripped out to save a few bucks. And common, everyday risks involving things like scaffolding or excavation, they get pushed into tiny little sublimits that are practically useless in a real event. So what does this look like when things go wrong? This is where the illusion shatters. You expect the full cost to fix a flooded metro tunnel to be covered, but nope, you hit a tiny sublimit for underground works. You expect your fancy defect cover to replace that failed turbine, but nope, the wording only covers a little bit of surrounding damage. You expect a fast payout after a flood, but the weak reinsurers behind the policy drag their feet, dispute the claim, and trigger a massive cash flow crisis. This is reality. You see, the equation is dangerously simple. Every single cheap tweak you make today to sharpen the pencil on the premium directly creates a hole in your coverage, a hole you're only going to discover at the absolute worst possible moment. Okay, that was the bad news, but here's the good news. It absolutely does not have to be this way. So let's flip this around. How do you build a policy that's not just paper, but actual solid protection? What's the bedrock you need to build it on? It really comes down to looking at three critical layers, and you have to get all three right. First, who's the local insurer issuing the policy? What's their reputation for paying claims? Second, and this is the big one, who is on the reinsurance panel? These are the companies actually carrying the risk. And third, what do the words on the page, the policy wording, actually say? If any one of these is weak, the whole thing is weak. And that brings us to maybe the single most important question that almost nobody asks. It's a question of financial security. When a truly massive, project-threatening claim happens, who has the deep pockets and the commitment to actually write that check? This chart really puts it all into perspective. On any large project, your local insurer is probably only holding on to a tiny sliver of the risk, maybe 10%. The vast majority, 90% or more, is passed on to global reinsurers. They are the ones who are truly underwriting your project's survival. So,
why do we keep saying that A or A-plus rated reinsurance is non-negotiable? What does that actually mean for you? It means they have the massive capital reserves to pay multi-crore losses without blinking. It means they have the stability to be there for a project that lasts for years. They bring world-class technical expertise. And crucially, it tells the banks and financiers funding your project that you are serious about managing risk.
All right, enough with the theory. Let's get practical. What can you do right now to build a real safety net for your project, not a fake one? Let's break it down. Here's a clear action plan. If you're a contractor or an EPC, start demanding the full policy wordings in tenders, not just a one-page quote. Insist on getting clarity on flood, earthquake, and defect cover. And ask the big question, who are the reinsurers? Now, if you're on the owner or department side, the power is in your hands. You need to define the minimum standards. Make A or A-plus reinsurance mandatory in your bid documents. And please, evaluate insurance on its quality, not just on who's cheapest. At the end of the day, this is the real choice you're making. It's not about saving 10% on a premium. It's a strategic decision. Are you going to save a tiny amount of money now? Or are you going to save the entire project when things go wrong? You know, what this all really requires is a critical shift in our mindset. We have to stop treating insurance like a commodity, like just another bag of cement, and start treating it as a strategic tool for managing catastrophic risk. Because you can never, ever forget what's at stake here. When a 500 crore disaster strikes, the only thing standing between the survival of your project and a complete write-off isn't hope, it's not luck. It is the specific wording in your KI policy and the financial strength of the companies behind it. So I want to leave you with this one final thought. You would never, ever compromise on the quality of the main structural span of a bridge just to save a few percent on steel. Your CAR and ER policy is no different. You have to treat it like it is critical infrastructure for your balance sheet. You have to build it strong. Look, we've gone through a lot today, and this stuff is complex, but it's absolutely vital. To make sure your project's safety net is built on bedrock, not sand, I really encourage you to reach out to the expert behind this analysis, Chaitanya Prabhu, for a proper strategic review. Thank you for your time.